Okay, everybody, welcome to WNY High School Football Weekly. I am Frank Wolf. This is Tom Prince. This is the Week 3 edition. So glad you can join us today. Hopefully you enjoyed those highlights from Prep Star, our good buddy Tom Rapisi. We appreciate your hard work on that and highlighting some of these players for us. Those were Tom's hand-picked top 10 plays from Week 2, and he's going to do that for us each and every week later in the program. We have more highlights for you as well. Before the show ends today, we've got about a 2.5-minute video of some pretty cool highlights that happened this past weekend. And we're going to highlight some of those games as we go along here today. Tom, it was, well, it's going to get crazy right now. There's some ridiculously tough games happening starting tomorrow, but last week was another full house of just wars, if you will, great battles. We did a number of games. Our views are amazing. We're going to hit 100,000 views this weekend.
We'll come real close to it. If not get it, it'll be really close to it.
So I'm excited about that, and I appreciate you all watching and sharing and telling everyone. One thing that we have to say that I wish everyone would understand is we're not ESPN, okay? We're not Fox Sports. We are a high school streaming site, okay? We do not have the ESPN budget. If we did, we'd be working for ESPN. But we do the best we can to get these streams and bring them to life. We are going to show up at a venue ready to go with the best equipment we have, and for one reason or another, we're just not going to be able to connect to the internet. Nothing we can do. We've gone to venues. We've had great broadcasts. We've gone back to the same venue, and we've had problems. And that's what happened last week at Cheektowaga, so we apologize to all those Cheektowaga-Burgard fans. Out of our control. Nothing we can do. We heard your complaints. We had the same complaints and the same concerns. You know, that's my tangent for the day. We are not Fox and ESPN. We're not wired into these locations. We're using a mobile hotspot, and it's a dedicated hotspot just for the broadcast. And if we can't get that connected to the internet, or if there's any interference, you're not going to see the game.
Yeah, when there was nasty thunderstorms that night, if you remember, at Cheektowaga. But we at least got it broadcast out, right, the next morning, so that people could at least see the game and make sure they didn't miss anything.
So that's our promise. You know, if we show up to a game with a crew, we're at least going to record it. We can record it, and then we could show it the next day. So it's a tape delay. the same thing we did for Jamestown. We had John Simon come into the office and call that game off the Will South YouTube feed. I want to give a huge shout out to the Will South Athletic Department, Adam, for making that. Adam Erickson, the AD out there, for making that happen. We sincerely appreciate you doing that. Again, we're not allowed to live stream any AA or A games on Friday night. There's a contract between Section 6 and Spectrum said nobody is to stream any AA's or A's. So that threw us out of that mix. We told you about that back in week 1, so I'm explaining it to you again. We did have a contract with Jamestown. They allow us to do the home games live, the away games we can show in tape delay. So, it's not that we're not trying to get and do a South Park game on a Friday night, or we would love to do Lancaster Orchard Park. We can't. It's against the contract. We can't touch it. We can go there and report on it, maybe get some video from the sideline, but we cannot broadcast those games. If you don't like it, preaching to the choir. We don't like it any more than you do. Write a letter to somebody. Say, hey, we want WNY Athletics streaming these games. And maybe that'll help. But that's the end of the tangent this week. I'm your host, Frank Wolf. Again, I'm joined by Tom Prince. He's at just about, 72 games every week? Or so it seems.
Feels like it sometimes, right? Listen, this is a big week. This is barometer week in some cases, right? You're really going to see where a lot of these teams stand. I mean, games all over the place. It all starts tomorrow. Clarence Bennett, right? You really see which team is really the cream of the crop in the AA.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that game because we haven't really seen Clarence yet. We've heard a lot of good things. They steamrolled Grand Island, and who'd they play week 2?
Who did they just beat in week 2? Was why am I blanking?
Was it Hutch Tech?
No, it was Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls. So they steamrolled two teams that we thought they would beat. Now they run into a buzzsaw. Now we're going to see if that offensive line, as strong and as beefy as they are at Clarence, can they handle that pressure from that defensive line at Bennett? Tom, you're always talking about the trenches. Mm-hmm. This is the biggest game in terms of 2 of the top public schools.
It's just strength on strength.
It is.
This is run versus run, right? Raymond versus Allen. No doubt this is going to be a big barometer test right there. Lancaster OP is another one, right? Frontier Jamestown. Now we're going to see how good, right, Frontier really is.
Yep.
We're red.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in just a moment. Before we get into things, let's take a quick commercial break.
I love being home.
There's nothing better than owning the perfect house to come home to. You've earned it, and we'll make it happen. Our local real estate experts and in-house team of financial professionals make buying or selling your home simple. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.
I love being home.
Are you in pain from a no-fault car accident? Don't wait. Call RES Physical Medicine and Rehab today and take advantage of our 24 to 48-hour appointment pledge. One of our medical professionals will see you within 48 hours. RES offers DXD imaging for a more accurate diagnosis in less time. This allows our doctors to coordinate the most effective treatment plan to get you on your way to recovery faster. Feel better with RES Physical Medicine and Rehab. Click or call today to learn more.
We're back here at WNYathletics.com, the WNY High School Football Weekly Show. I want to send out my shout-outs to the guys that I know that regularly tune in. Harry Scull from the Buffalo News, the great photographer, and, of course, Dennis Serro from the Connolly Cup. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know you guys are watching Dean Adams, Nelson Adams. Thank you very much. I know you guys are watching and appreciate you guys take care of us. With that, let me run through this recent Connolly Cup top performers sponsored by AdPro. They were Dominic Allen from Bennett, Luke Ellis from Wilson, Tyler Baker, Canisius, Jack Bunsey, Pioneer, Jason Britton, Kenmore West, Trey Drake, Jamestown, Jackson, Gowan, Casadega Valley, Falconer, Maple Grove, Brody Hibbard, Akron, Amari Jones, Albion, Keegan Mancabelli, Orchard Park, Curtis Olson, CSP, Steve O'Tremba Jr., St. Francis, Noah Willoughby, South Park, Jaden Wilson, St. Mary's, and Nathaniel Zachary from Williamsville South. Tom, we saw a couple of those guys up close and personal. I saw Luke Atlas at Cleve Hill, and he was exceptional. Real good.
I saw Ben Casella over in Orchard Park, who threw a lot of those to Keegan Machiavelli. Keegan had a day and a half, 6 receptions, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. I also got a chance to see Grand Island, right? So we'll definitely be talking about some of those performances here in the broadcast. But I'll tell you,
Well, you saw Tyler Baker too from Canisius.
I did. Saw Tyler Baker.
Was that the first play from scrimmage? They scored a touchdown.
Yeah, he took off run right up the gut, and then took it out to the outside, and he was gone. I mean, you just saw how strong that Canisius line is.
I know Tyler is one of the top premier quarterbacks in Western New York, and he's been working so hard on his arm, his strength, his accuracy, and things like that. How did he look throwing the ball on Saturday against Maritime?
When he did, I mean, when you look at the numbers, right? He only threw the ball 11 times.
Okay.
Right? So he went 7 for 11. Because the game got out of hand so quickly,
Didn't need to throw.
He didn't need to throw the ball.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, when you got a threat that he does, because he'll roll to the outside, and you've got to make sure you understand he could run the ball and throw the ball, and you got to guard both. I'm telling you, he really is dangerous.
So not only do you have to worry about those throws underneath, but you also have to have a guy kind of shadowing them.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at their schedule. Now, we don't know all these teams from Ohio that well, but from Western New York, other than St. Francis, I don't know anybody that can really do the job to slow this offense down. I mean, Jimmy Scott, is he the one that's going to be shadowing Trey?
I think it'll be different depending on the
Tyler Baker?
rollout.
Yeah.
It's going to probably be your defensive ends in a lot of cases.
You're going to have someone spying on him all game
But
that
I'm
can keep up with him because he's super fast.
But flip that. I don't know if anyone can play with St. Francis otherwise at the same time, right?
Yeah.
That you're there. It's going to be those two are going to match up to go after that Monsignor Martin title.
And that's later in the year. So I believe that's week 8. And then they start their playoffs, so you'll see them probably week 8, and then maybe again in week 10 or 11, however that shakes out for the Monsignor Martin Championships. We'll get into Monsignor Martin just a little bit. Trench Trophy, their nominees for week 2 were Ben, I'm going to butcher this poor kid's name from Orchard Park, Ben Sisilki?
Sealski?
Yeah. All right. Matt Covell from Akron, Tavi Cruz from South Park, Ashton Kasperzak, North Tonawanda, Matt Murphy, Will South, Jason Scrivani, Pioneer, Gavin Sussfolk from Canisius, and Andrew Takis from Hamburg. Those were your Connolly Cup and Trench Trophy nominees from week 2. All you guys on those committees, thank you for what you do. It's not easy. I mean, these are guys that get around in their own cars. They drive, they go see games, they study film, and they pour their heart and souls into doing this job to help recognize these athletes from around Western New York. And don't freak out if you're not on specifically with the Connolly Cup, because I'm on the committee. If you may have 10 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns in week 1 and get nominated, and then week 2 have 10 touchdowns, okay? They can't nominate you the second week. You were already nominated the first. You will not get nominated again until at least week 5. So just keep that in mind. And every now and again, we miss somebody, or we just forget to put them in. We all make mistakes.
Or that other people on your team also had significant, because you don't see a lot of times multiple teams.
It's tough. And you hate to put more than one guy on the list. Like, you don't want to put 2 kids from one team the same week. You want to highlight the one kid who had the best game there, because at the end of the day, you're talking about winning the Connolly Cup, the best football player in Western New York. Yes, we're going to recognize you week to week here. We're going to do the best job we can. But again, coaches. You got the email at the beginning of the year. We need your help. You need to send the email into the chairman recognizing your athlete, your player that you saw. And it doesn't have to be your team. It could be the opposing team. But send that into the chairman so we see it, because it takes a village. It really does take a village to help nominate these kids. That's all I got to say about the Connolly Cup today. Thank you very much for your help. We're going to award that winner at a banquet. I believe it's Dennis is going to kill me. I forget when it was, but it's coming up in December.
They've done a great job. They've really covered. I think there's only been one really big one that we haven't seen yet that has had a great first and second week, and that would be what I would say, Dylan Evans out of Orchard Park, right? 3 touchdowns first week, 3 touchdowns the second week. And again, but he's also had teammates that have done phenomenal, right? Yeah. So, but I will say is that's probably one name we're going to see still approach and do something to be able to get on that Connolly Cup.
These guys are on the radar. Radar, and we're looking for you. So, hey, and I'm not saying this about any one player. I'm not going to say this, but I'm going to tell you, when we nominate a Connolly Cup athlete, we're not only looking at what you did on the field, we're watching what you do off the field. If you're arguing with coaches, if you're disrespectful on the field, or you take a personal foul or something like that, you automatically get knocked off for that week. We're not going to nominate you if we see any shenanigans on the sideline or if you're talking back to a coach or referee. We're representing complete players. Not only do we do that, but, the certified training athletes,
Yep.
Mike Masters and the job those guys do. Tim Chifa does color for us. He's one of those guys that's out there. He's going out to Akron on Friday. So, Tim, I need your eyes and ears for that game. Akron's playing out of their mind. So, Tim, I need you to really get back to me on how Akron looks. I'm not going to be able to get there. But I want to recognize Mike Masters and the work that they do. He's, of course, the son of Gene Masters, legendary coach from Grand Island. And if you're lucky enough to get to the stadium at the end of the year, you get a chance to hear Mike Masters address all those teams. And that's one of the highlights of that afternoon, that morning, excuse me. At What is it, Highmark Stadium?
Yep.
Yeah. So I enjoy that. Tom, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I did. Like I said, I think they've done everyone. You're going to see more Trench Trophy guys. There's a lot of things. Remember the Trench Trophy, senior only. So a lot of you may be thinking, boy, my kid's killing it. Needs a junior or a sophomore. He can't be nominated. This is a senior one. They will do one at the end of the year. Well, they will bring some of lower classmen in to be recognized, somebody that is the up-and-comer for next year. But otherwise, this is a senior award.
Yep. Tom, some of the big games from last weekend, we had that Canisius Maritime game circled before the season started. We wanted to see how one of the top public schools measured up against one of the top, arguably one of the top teams in the state. I think they're the number 2 large school in the state rankings. I can't remember who was number 1. I probably should know. But nonetheless, Canisius just flexed their muscle again. They showed how dominant they were. This is no shot at Maritime Health Sciences whatsoever. But this is just how far the top program is in Western New York compared to some of these other schools. I mean, Maritime's a B school.
Listen, this is a B playing a double A.
Yeah.
This is what it is,
Double
right?
A, triple A.
You know what I mean? Or, fine, if you want it, but it is the top of the double A, right? When we're going to sit here and say, Western New York Maritime went and did this last year with St. Francis, struggled a little bit in that game too, right? It was all, I always say, any smaller team that's ready to step up class, you're going to look at the line because that is the one area you have to compete in. If you don't compete, it's going to be a long day.
And Ty Parker takes these games because he wants his guys to know what it's going to be like as they get down the line. I mean, that's a team in B that arguably is going to be fighting for the Class B title and then moving on down the line. So Ty wants these guys to see the best of the best and see how hard his guys have to work. Are they going to play like team like that in Rochester and then Syracuse down the line?
They see a team that comes out of the Binghamton area, as we know every year. That is a team they've lost to before. Yes, Chenango Valley. Yeah,
I mean, you
Chenango
saw
Forks.
how big they were.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of
So
them were as big as you.
his goal is, first of all, Ty Parker, you are fearless. I love the fact that you will go play anybody, anytime, anywhere. He does it in basketball. He does it in football, right?
McDuffie does it too.
Yeah,
Hats off to McDuffie.
Absolutely. In fact,
Done it.
McDuffie had Canisius on the schedule. So he was, again, I love that you guys are fearless to be able to do it. You look at Ty, what his goal is not what a regular season is. It's to go on, win a sectional title and more, which is what you said. It should be state championship, and the only way to do it is to compete at a higher level. That's what he's doing.
Do you have any idea how PO'd right now Maritime is after losing those 2 games? You lose to Bennett and then Canisius, and you lose bad to Canisius. I don't know who they're playing this week. I got to look at the schedule.
They're playing Burgard, I think.
I would hate to be Burgard right now with Maritime coming in. I mean, that is a PO team right now, and they're going to take it out on Burgard. I hate to say it. Jason Kobe, he's got his work cut out for him. He's one of my favorites. I'm always rooting for Jason and those guys over there. Had a rough game against Cheektowaga last week. I don't know what to say about that game. I mean, I thought they were going to give Cheektowaga a much better game.
Yeah, well, especially after you saw the first game, right?
Where did
That's
the
what we
wheels fall off? What happened there? What was so good about Cheektowaga?
Listen, they've got a running back that we all know, right?
It's Cameron Warburton.
Yeah.
It's wrong on the.
on
It's
the
wrong
things,
in
right?
there. It's not Warburton Cameron. It's Cam Warburton.
Listen, Cam's a 225-pound running back that is tough to tackle. And he absolutely went out there and did what he had to do to help his team win that game.
So that was okay. So Cam Warburton took over. It was a Cam Warburton show.
Yep.
How'd that sophomore quarterback look to you? I forget his name.
Again,
But
they ran the ball a ton. That was part of the problem there, right? So, I mean, Cam went 16 carries, 93 yards for 2 touchdowns. Jalen Henlon went 8 carries, 75 yards for 2 touchdowns. Matt Bars, who you're talking about right there, 5 for 7, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception in the game.
some other big-time playmakers from this past week. You know, we're going to award our Logistics Plus Freak of the Week at the end of the show. You're going to have to wait around, but there were so many great nominees. I don't know if you want to go through them now, Tom, and just talk about some of these performances one by one. How do you want to do it, Tom? I'm letting you.
Well,
by the way, 7:30. We better be ready.
Yeah,
Ben
so
Gosella.
7:30, Ben Gasell is going to call
We got to
in.
come up with a nickname for Gosella.
He may have one. Why don't we ask him?
Could. Otherwise, he's going to get one from me. He might not like it.
So let's break it down. So first of all, what I did was pick out this is my top performances, right,
Okay.
that I felt. At QB, Noah Willoughby from South Park. Boy, this is the South Park comeback that we talked about here.
He didn't look good in week one.
Yeah, 14 for 18, 384 yards and 5 touchdowns.
And he bounces back like this.
And that's what we said is he's getting games under his belt. South Park will be there. Watch out. You better not count them out.
Absolutely. And if this kid can get that offense moving, and it looks like they played. Who did they play last week? Was it Amherst?
Yes.
They played Amherst last week, so they got an A win under their belt.
Yep.
Okay, it's a division win, big for them. If that kid can get that offense down and read these defenses, and if they can get production like this out of Willoughby, South Park's an even scarier team than we might have thought, because that was a question mark going in from us. We knew they were going to be tough. We knew they were going to be physical. Their JV program has been good year after year, so we knew they were going to be feeding into this varsity program, and Willoughby is a good place to start.
Ben Casella, 19 for 28 for 354 yards and 6 touchdowns. Oh, he only played 3 quarters. Right? I mean, wow.
White flag, man. I feel bad for Grand Island. Ay.
Nick Whitfield from Fredonia, 21 for 31 for 243 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception.
I thought
Hold on. Then he carried the ball for 17 carries for 96 yards for another 3 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns total.
Yep.
That's freaky.
And that's 339 yards
Freaky deep.
total, right?
We got to come up with a nickname for Whitfield, too.
Xander Payne from Medina, 16 for 22 for 238 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Tyler Baker, we talked about, 7 for 11 for 123 yards with 3 touchdowns, plus had 3 carries for 84 yards and a touchdown.
So out of those guys there, Tom, I'm tossing and turning between Whitfield and Gosella. Those are the guys I'd be looking at. With Gosella only playing 3 quarters. Whitfield, though, Fredonia played, was it Chautauqua? The Thunderbirds? That was a nice division win for them.
It was.
Fredonia. They're off to a 2-0 start. They're ranked number 11 in the state. And B or C?
C. Fredonia just C. And they played
C,
Allegheny
senor?
Limestone.
Okay.
Allegheny Limestone.
Allegheny Limestone. A very tough physical team. Maybe not the most athletes. Maybe not a lot of great football players, but very tough, hard-nosed kids. And they told me before the season, especially Coach Sherlock told me that was going to be a very physical game for them, and they pulled it out.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, listen, you could sit here and go, you could say Willoughby in there too, right? I mean, there's not one where you can, and let's say Tyler Baker was phenomenal for Canisius, right? Look at what Medina's doing, right? These guys are all leading their teams right now to unbelievable records and things.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you, to me, the running backs blew my mind. Okay.
From Depew?
Blew my mind. Well, wait till you hear some of these before I even get to Depew.
All right.
Xander Hind, right, for Randolph, 44 carries, 330 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Against Franklinville Ellicott.
Yes, which is a big division game right there. Here's another one that nobody's out there talking about. Devin Collins from Hamburg. 17 carries, 322 yards. Christian Lewis, St. Mary's, 27 carries, 302 yards, and 3 touchdowns. We had 3 running backs go for 300 plus.
Wow.
Dominic Allen, Bennett, 11 carries, 270 yards on 11 carries with 3 touchdowns.
They took it to Will North, man.
Yep.
They took it to Will North.
Brody Hibbard with Akron, 18 carries, 239 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Here's the Depew player, Carson Alberti, 20 carries, 212 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Jack Bunsey with Pioneer, who was a Conley Cup nominee, 28 carries for 206 yards. Jalen Butera, we already talked about him multiple. He was our Freak of the Week last week. 19 carries, 193 yards, 3 touchdowns. DR Fleming with Sweet Home, 19 carries, 189 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
2 great back-to-back games for him.
Yep. And my last one, Vinny Monaco from Frontier, 23 carries, 188 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Those are some serious running back stats right
Those are
there.
great numbers. Those are great numbers. We're going to get a Freak of the Week for sure. He will be deserving player. And last week was Jalen Butera, inaugural Freak of the Week. What else you got for numbers, Tom?
So wide receivers, Amar Pollock, South Park, 5 receptions, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Keegan Macabelli at Orchard Park, 6 receptions, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jackson Jones of Grand Island, 8 receptions for 136 yards. Jacob Coburn from Kenmore East is 5 receptions, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Greg Thompson from Medina, 4 receptions for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. Devin Mobley from West Seneca West, 4 receptions for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I talked about this. I added on Dylan Evans of Orchard Park, 7 receptions, 64 yards, 3 touchdowns. But it's his second week in a row he goes for 3 touchdowns.
Good for him.
And then I know Ben's called in. Why don't we take a quick break?
Okay.
Let's interview Ben. And then I've got one more to go through. We can get back after our interview where we're going to go through some of our defensive players.
All right, so we're going to check in with some of our sponsors. We'll be back with Orchard Park quarterback Ben Gosella.
Does he do car?
Forget about it.
How about home?
Forget about it.
Does he get good rates?
Forget about it.
And you're saying there's no problem too big for this guy?
Forget about it. Paul, this is Johnny, the guy we've been talking about. Johnny, Paul Wolf.
Mr. Wolf, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for the invite.
Not a problem. It's Paul, not Mr. Wolf.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Johnny, forget about it. For all your insurance needs, call 835-WOLF. And...
Welcome back to WNY High School Football Weekly. This is episode 3, week 3. We've had 2 really good back-to-back weeks of high school football. We're getting ready for a third, and probably the matchup that everyone's been waiting for is that Orchard Park Quakers Lancaster Legends game this Friday night. I don't believe that's on Spectrum. I don't think that's the game they chose. But you can hear radio call of that game. Marky Johnson, who does some play-by-play for WNY Athletics, and he's also the sideline reporter for WNYO tomorrow night. They will have the radio play for that game. And I want to say Lancaster streams anyways on their YouTube channel, Lancaster Athletics. So at least you might be able to get that on YouTube and then maybe turn the radio up and try and get Marky Johnson. They're also on the internet, WXRL radio. But without further ado, let's bring in is it the senior quarterback, Tom?
No, junior.
The junior quarterback from Orchard Park, Mr. Ben. We got to come up with a nickname, Gosella. Ben, good evening. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing just fine. Tom bought dinner tonight. We went down to a little restaurant, got some rice bowls, and we came back here. Tom's got all the stats in front of me. He's making me look really, really good. But how did practice go today, Ben? What was the message from Coach Dana?
Oh, I mean, it's just the same thing. Like, we should just treat it like it's any other week, but deep down we really know it's a bigger week than what our coaches are saying it is. But they're really trying to prepare us good. Like today at practice, we had speakers behind the offense to try to simulate the noise that's going to be at the Lancaster game because everyone knows that this is the game of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, you've been to a number of Lancaster Orchard Park games over the years with your own boys playing. So this is no, this isn't your first rodeo. now, like last year, you didn't have those packed stands. Orchard Park, they don't travel to Jamestown well because they were down there week 1. There wasn't that many Orchard Park fans there in that stadium.
No,
But
but
then
listen,
again,
this
those
is
bleachers are there's
yeah.
plenty of room down there. So
Listen, this is a rivalry game.
that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Will Orchard Park fill those stands at Lancaster?
Remember, shorter stands, smaller stands. Yes, they'll be packed.
Okay. They haven't. These kids really haven't played in front of a packed crowd like that. This is going to be Ben's first real opportunity at Lancaster on that field, foil clean field. Lancaster's going to be, from one end of the bleachers to the next. They're going to be filled. I mean, it's going to be loud. Ben, this is really your first big game at Lancaster. You've taken them on, but how are you preparing mentally for the noise and just the rivalry here? How are you as a 15, 16-year-old boy heading into this game? Where's your mind at?
I'm really just trying to stay calm and treat it like it's any other game, but the noise is definitely going to make a difference. I mean, that's why we have stuff in play, like holding up play cards to show like what plays are going on, so we don't have to scream across the field when the noise is obviously a factor in the game. But me mentally, I just try to stay calm. I usually do well with that. So.
Ben, you're off to a rocking start this year. One of the top quarterbacks. The numbers are ridiculous. How much confidence does that give you going into this game, knowing that you're seem to be on the same page with all of your receivers and getting a lot of production out of your guys?
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like our offense is doing a great job right now. Our receivers are getting open, and the ball's just finding their hands, and they're making me look as good as my numbers show right now.
Listen, Ben, you're throwing to 6 different receivers, right? You're not afraid to hit any single one of them. And one of them you got back kind of last week, right? And you're going to hopefully get him back at full strength this week, and that's your older brother. And so talk about the different receivers, why you've been such a threat because of these receivers and what you can expect from them.
Geez, I can go for half an hour on how good our receivers are, but, everyone knows how good Dylan is, how good our connection has been lately. You got Copeland on the other outside part. He's been lighting it up with yards and touchdowns and all this. And same with Keegan. And then we have Adam, too, which no one really knew of. And then he just comes out and starts balling out. And then my brother's coming back from a little ankle tweak that he had. And, I just have a connection with him, obviously, because I'm brothers with him. And he's a baller. We just got athletes all around the field for me, so makes me really happy to see.
And Adam really got playing time because your brother got hurt.
Yeah,
right? That's really where his playing time in. And then you also got Brody Stevens out there too.
That's true. I can go on and on. Adam filled the role just like any other guy would have thought he would on our team because he's a hard worker and he filled those shoes good.
Ben, during this off season, what were you doing to prepare for this? This is a very big year for you. That junior season is really when you start to attract the college coaches. You're on the radar now. They can actively talk to you, pursue you. What were you doing this season as you prepare for what is your biggest season to date?
Yeah, I just treated it like any other off season. Worked hard, got to the turf, went to all the workouts. I didn't try to take too much time and think about how big of a season it is, but deep down I know how big of a season it is because this really impacts a lot on my future, and I of course want to play football in the future past high school, so it's a big year for me, and I'm trying to work hard and keep it moving.
So are you saying you want to play football or is it baseball?
Jeez, I don't know yet.
I caught you on that one, right?
Yeah, you did.
Listen, for those of you who don't know, Ben is a phenomenal catcher, one of the top catchers in the area to boot. So he can do it on the baseball field and he can do it on the football field. He's proven it over and over and over again. So listen, Ben, with this game that's coming up, what do you have to do as a team, Orchard Park, for you to get a win in Lancaster?
Yeah, I really think we have to just stay mentally sound and just do your job. When we try to do each other's jobs, that's when we start messing up because we start worrying about other people's jobs instead of our own jobs. I think if we just keep playing the way that we've been playing, we'll be just fine.
Ben, we were arguing earlier, Tom and I, about your nickname. Do you have one? What do the guys call you, and can you say it on air?
Some people call me BG, Beej. Nothing really special.
Okay. I was going to say Ben on the go, Jella, but it's Go Sella.
BG, I'd call him the big gunslinger.
We're going to come up with one, Ben. You may not like what we choose, but we're going to come up with one by the end of the show. I know it's getting close to your bedtime. You got to get ready for Lancaster, so we're going to cut you loose. But we want to wish you guys the best of luck. Stay healthy, and we'll be talking to you after the game. Tom, you're going down, aren't you?
Yeah, I will be there. I will be there, and I will be tweeting out updates as at the game.
So, Ben, you have yourself a great night. Tell the boys we said hello, best of luck, and tell Coach Dana to give me a call one of these days.
All right. I appreciate you guys having me.
Anytime. Thanks, Ben.
Bye-bye.
So that was Ben Gosella. Well, we got to come up with a nickname for this kid.
or if you've got one out there, put them in the comments, right?
Yeah.
Help us out with a nickname here.
Terry Kunick's always watching. We got a comment from him. Thank you very much, Terry. We appreciate you watching each and every week. Tom, Lancaster rolled Hutch Tech, but that Hutch Tech scored the opening touchdown. If I remember, it was a pick six. So
it was 6-0 at the time of the game.
But they rebounded and came back. Bennett just ran all over Will North. I don't want to go through every single game. But,
No, but if we could talk to a game, we've got stats on
Yeah.
it. But remember, can I just finish my defense here?
That's
Remember?
right. You had tackles and stuff.
So our top defensive players, let's talk about them, right? Raymond Gilly from Lockport, 15 and a half tackles in that one. Ethan Healy from East Aurora, Holland, 15 tackles. Bryce Clothier
all from
East Aurora, Holland. This is what amazed me in this game. East Aurora, Holland had 3 players with 10 or more tackles. You don't see that very often in a game. But Bryce has 14 tackles. Matthew Lauder, who you called out in your sideline report from Fredonia, 13 and a half tackles and an interception. Jamario Tolliver from Bennett, 12 tackles. Nick Sorelio from Canisius, 11 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Rory O'Brien with 11 tackles. And that's also East Aurora, Holland. Dante Hoos from Southwestern, 10.5 tackles. Rashard Perry from Bennett, 10 tackles, 2 sacks. And Carmine Jones from Lockport with 10 tackles. Those were our beasts on the defensive side of the ball.
Great numbers. You know, I said it on that sideline report that we have some great football players here, no question about it. Now I know we're not known for our high school football, but we're starting to really crank out some good players, and it's a tribute to all these coaches, not just the head coaches, but these guys that work on, like the quarterback coaches, guys that work on different strength and conditioning things, wide receiver coaches that are out there. We're following you. We're seeing what you're doing, and keep up the good work because we're starting to put out some really good football players, and you could tell by these numbers that Tom just read off. These are six touchdowns, 3 rushing, 3 throwing for Whitfield.
It's amazing. Whitfield, like I said, with Casella, we talked about. What about Xander Hine? 330 yards on the ground?
Yeah.
Against a really good Franklinville-Ellicottville team?
I know. We were there.
Devin Collins from Hamburg has been picking up everything over there.
The wrestler, the lacrosse player.
Listen,
twin brother.
St. Mary's thinks they're going to be able to go into anybody and go after him, right? And with a kid like Lewis right there, why not?
Playing with a ton of confidence right now. St. Mary's at Lancers are shout out to Coach Matt Ard, who was battling COVID probably this time last year. Beats that. Big fight for him, and he won that battle, and now look at his team. They're playing hard for their coach, and I love it.
Yep.
Sweet Home, they're off to a 2-0 start. D.R. Fleming, we met him. We saw him out having breakfast with his old man.
We did?
Not too long ago, and I think that's why he's playing so good, Tom, because we gave him the
we talked about his breakfast.
We rubbed off on him the right way. He knows food. He did a great job.
Big matchup this week, though. They got Ken West,
Oh, yeah.
so let's see what happens. This could be a nice barometer. We talked about a barometer week for both teams.
Yes, it is definitely a barometer week. I also wanted. We were at the NT Ken East game that DJ Johnson went off for 4 touchdowns. You know, that's the first time the Lumberjacks have won on that field since they had it redone.
Yep.
So 4 years without a victory. Congrats to them, the coaching staff, for all your hard work in getting that W over Ken East. Francis was really upset about that. Talked to him. But no, I'll tell you what, I haven't been that high on Ken East in a while. I like what they're doing over there with the Bulldogs. That was a nice offense. If they can get more time to work together and gel, I think you're going to see some good things out of Kemmer East. And that A North is wide open. 4 teams from A North are going to make it to the playoffs.
Well, wide open to me to get to the playoffs. Who's going to be that third, fourth type team, right? I do believe Grand Island is your team to watch out for in that one right now as the take. But I'll tell you, here comes another barometer game that comes up this week. McKinley versus Grand Island. McKinley comes off a big win against AA Niagara Falls first week.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Right? Didn't get to play this past week. Now he's got Grand Island. Are you ready to step up? Because I'll tell you, Justin Horvath and Grand Island will be ready.
Now, this was the game time. Jamestown, Will South here. Jamestown got off to a good start, but Will South hung in there. They chipped away, and they finally got themselves back in the game, had the big pick six. They had their chances, but Jamestown just a one score better. Jalen Butera with another 193 yards and 3 touchdown performance. Drake threw 2 touchdowns, 230-plus yards. So, but don't take your eyes off of Will South. They may be 0-2 right now, but that's a battle-tested 0-2 team. That's a tough team. For an 0-2 team, don't just look at the record. That team took Jamestown to the brink. Was Jamestown overlooking Will South? That was a question Francis and I were wrestling with on the Friday night final drive. You know,
or did I get out in the lead and settle in a little bit? You know what I mean?
I know Tom Langworthy was kicking himself for the play calling at the end. He thought they were a little too aggressive. Maybe. But hey, man, you got to play at a high level all the time. You have to have your foot down on the. Otherwise, teams will come back, and sometimes this thing happens. But Jamestown held on to win. Now, Tom, they get Frontier Friday night. A game we'll be live streaming. You know, you're talking about Orchard Park, Lancaster. How about this Jamestown Frontier game? What Frontier's been doing? That offense is in sync. That's a difficult, tough running game. You got this Monaco kid running for 2 touchdowns last week.
188 yards against the West Seneca West team that just did really well against South
Mike
Park.
Vastola coach team. So, I mean, there's – and I think the West Seneca West quarterback might have got injured. Somebody from West Seneca West got injured. So that might have had something to do with that, played a role in that game. But it didn't ever look like Frontier was – it looked like Frontier was the better team for 4 quarters.
Coach Gray's got them ready.
He's got them ready.
You've seen the last couple of years, and I've said this on a couple broadcasts and things about Frontier. You look, I look at the JV sometimes as, you know, let's see what's going on. Like, I don't hold it too hard and say just because you had a good JV team, it means you're going to have a good varsity team. But they were dominating in the double A's at JV, right? You were starting to see, boy, that these teams now hit the varsity level. And Coach Gray is absolutely taking them to the next level. This team is for real. Get ready. But I'm going to tell you, you talked a little bit about that Will South thing.
Yeah.
Will South could be the spoiler to teams that think they're going to get into that out of the bottom 4, that they're going to spoil somebody out there because they're going to come in and upset somebody.
So tomorrow night, Tom, the other real big game is a AA game. Again, it's on WNYO. Tony Killigery's got the call with Pilkey and Johnson. Clarence Bennett in AA. I mean, you've got 2 big, massive lines going at it, and that's where you always –
and 2 big, strong running backs, right?
Yeah.
Raymond for Clarence, and you got Allen for Bennett. Those 2 are big, strong backs with their lines. So it's going to be strength on strength. Who's going to win? It's exactly what it is on the it's going to win based upon their own strength.
And that's at All High at 7 p.m., again, shown on WNYO. The game we're going to be at is at Cleve Hill at Tonawanda. Clint Small Stadium. We're going to be testing out some new camera angles and things of that nature, so I hope you tune into that game, Cleve Hill and Tonawanda. Those are 2 programs that are struggling right now. Cleve Hill played Wilson last week. Tonawanda had to face Iroquois, and the offense is just
Iroquois is a top team in the area for the Bees. So
Kemmer West got a big win over Lockport in A. Again, we talked about South Park. We didn't mention Peril Fulgham's name. He's running.
Yep.
He's still a tough back. No one forgot about him. We talked a little bit about that Cheektowaga-Burgard game. Albion's off to is that a 2-0 start for Albion, 2 in B?
I think it is,
Yeah,
yes.
I think it is. They're ranked in the state. West Seneca East is is at a 2-0 record after taking down Ole, and the Huskies are 0-2 to start the season. But you're going to see West Seneca East at Pioneer on Friday night, a game we're doing on WNY Athletics.
Yep. And Albion's leading the B North at 2-0, the only team that is 2-0 currently right now. But they've got Wilson coming to them. Wilson's ready to give them a test, too.
Oh, and it will be. I like what's going on at Wilson, too. They got a nice little quarterback at USAT, and then Atlas, the running back, I thought USAT was just as good throwing and distributing the ball as Atlas was running it. So that was a couple of real good, nice players on Wilson, and Coach Atlas is doing a good job, as he always does with the Lakemen. Again, Pioneer, West Seneca East, Tom, that's barometer.
Another barometer game.
How
good are both these teams, right? How good is East? How good is Pioneer? You know, Bunsey just ran for 208 yards for Pioneer. Listen, they're for real. There's no doubt about it. These are going to be 2 teams. Brody Hopkins, again,
great game.
3-year starter at quarterback. He's done it. You've seen his. In fact, he just put his highlight reel out there. Listen, it's going to be a fun one to watch. It really is. Will East, their quarter. No, sorry, not Will East. West Seneca East. I was looking for right here.
I don't have any stats on him. That's
I don't have any stats on that
doesn't put stats in. We need someone's got to get on them. We got to get your stats, West Seneca East.
But a big game over Olean. Listen, there aren't many times you're going to hear Olean sitting at 0-2.
How often do you say?
You don't.
Say that?
But I mean, look at the first 2 games they had to go after, right? Fredonia, who we already know is playing real good ball, and then you got West Seneca East right in there.
Yeah. Now, we didn't really see much of this game. It was that early game Saturday, Dunkirk and Lakeshore. And, Tom, I'm telling you, Dunkirk is a team to be reckoned with. They got some ballers in Dunkirk, and I think the Marauders are going to be at that. They're going to have an invitation to the party, and they're going to have a say in that. But, again, Akron, another real tough team. They just got shellacked Alden 54-6. Brody Hibbert, you talked about his numbers. And then Travis Fry, 159 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. He's playing at a very high level. And then
this Akron team's for real. For those of you who don't know, right?
They do.
This Akron team is for real.
Who do they got this week, Tom? They're playing Friday night. I know Tim Chief is heading out there Friday, and I thought I saw they had a big one.
Akron will be playing Newfane.
Okay, so Newfane, typically a tough physical team. You're going to be in a battle. A lot of wrestlers on that Newfane team. So I don't know how good of a football team they are this year. I know last week wasn't a game canceled last week.
They've struggled early, and they're 0-2 right now, and a point differential of 40 points right now. So.
Okay.
You would think this is going to be another game that Akron should do very well in, but
you can't look past anybody.
No, you can't look. Listen, it's an 8-week season. How can you look past anybody?
You just can't. And continuing on again, Fredonia's doing very well. Allegheny Limestone, they took care of them. Lackawanna got their first win over JFK last week. Now you'll be there on Friday when they host
Saturday.
Saturday, 1 o'clock.
I think so, yeah.
And they're bringing in the Medina Mustangs, and that team just won't stop scoring. I mean, they beat up Newfane last week 40-0. Your favorite pitcher, Alexander Payne, with the 3 touchdowns there. So, I mean, C is loaded with talent this year. I did talk to Coach Atlas last week at the Cleve Hill game, and he said to me that he thinks they're only 4 or 5 students away from being dropped down to D next year. But he said we won't be there long. We'll stay and see. And he also mentioned to me something I didn't catch wind of until my conversation with him. He said that the ADs were approached, and it's on the table to go to another class. They may be adding a class AAA in the future. It's being discussed right now. It's on the table. You may see a class AAA. Tom, I don't know if we need another class because you have so many. I mean, look at B and C, all these teams. You got hardly any in D. Move a couple down to D, move a couple Bs to A or double A.
Remember, D, we've got a lot in D compared to the rest of the sections throughout the state, right? Especially when you get down towards the city, Section 9, Section 1, Section, you know what I mean?
Some of those 5 schools take
you really don't. But I will say is, I think when you're talking about going to a AAA, the only thing that worries me is, will you have enough games to play?
Yeah.
Will there be enough for a conference? As it is, we've been lucky to have enough for AA, right? Well, we keep having teams flirt back and forth. Well, North comes up, they go down, right? Frontier goes up, they go down.
Lockport. How is Lockport not a AA team?
So the question will be whether there'll be enough teams in this area for us to really worry about going to a AAA conference.
Possibly not. Down in D, Randolph with that big win over Franklinville, Ellicottville, and then CSP super strong there at 59-12. Those were some of the big wins. Portville had a win over the Timon, so they're 2-0.
There's your matchup this week in the D. Portville CSP. There's a big matchup right there.
That's the one.
There's your barometer game right there in the D.
I don't know much about their quarterback, Curtis Olson, though. He had a big game this past week against Cattaraugus Little Valley. It's good to see Bryce Hinsdale. Oh, my God. Garrett's little brother got a touchdown. Nice little touchdown catch he had. He had to leap for it. And I think
he had some good yards in that game. I mean, he went 4 receptions for 85 yards in that game with a touchdown.
Very respectable. Trent Burchanowski, 7 carries, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's no joke. Those are big numbers. So the D's, we're not forgetting about you. You know, the other program I wanted to talk about was, how about Salmaker?
Thank you. I was going to say that's the game that's got to be talked about right there.
I mean, Tom, we saw 2 weeks ago. You were at the game, Iroquois Southwestern, and
Yep.
that was a good game, back and forth.
Yep.
Southwestern was in control. They had the lead. Iroquois come back, wins the game. I told you I was out that night. I wasn't able to watch the end of it, but I saw the picture from the cross training athletics after, and you could just see the look on Burkholder's face, the coach at Southwestern. They were totally deflated. Totally deflated. I think it was Hoos was the one for that game. And Iroquois was very happy, obviously, but Southwestern looked deflated, Tom, and I don't know if that took so much out of them that they – I mean, you try to forget and play week to week.